to the StayOnTheCourt.com podcast, the show that helps aging basketball players stay on the court and continue playing basketball or the sport that they love. We talk injuries, rehab, coaching youth sports, pickup game mishaps, and oh yeah, that guy in your court that wants to fight everybody. Our motto is, we don't stop playing because we grow old, we grow old because we stop playing.
When people ask me, why are you so passionate about light therapy? It is something that completely saved my life. It is something that helped me eliminate my sinus infection when nothing else worked. When I hear people say that, oh, well, I was told to just do the treatment on Tuesday and then I'm charged up until Thursday. Wherever they got that advice from, those people had no idea what they were talking about. And this is the problem.
Welcome to the StayOnTheCourt.com podcast. This is your host, Troy Wallace, as always, broadcasting from the beautiful studios in downtown Omaha, Nebraska. We have a fantastic guest and interview today. You heard a few nuggets from her already in the cold open. Just a joy and delight to talk to. Our guest is Wendy Zelmer, a certified laser therapist and a registered massage therapist and inflammation specialist in Edmonton, Alberta. She specializes in red light therapy, also called photobiomodulation. She practices up in Edmonton and online at inflammationcoach.com. The show notes are going to be absolutely packed for this one. You can access those at stayonthecourt.com/Wendy-Zelmer. That's Zelmer. She runs a great Facebook group for anybody who's interested in red light therapy in general, where she moderates, as well as she has a course where other therapists can learn how to add her treatments to their practice. Here's what we talk about. So, number one, Wendy's story on why she transitioned her career into red light therapy in her practice, which is really interesting. If you are a clinician or a therapist, she talks about how you can incorporate what she does into your practice. She's got a really unique approach on incorporating the lymphatic system and some things she learned as a massage therapist and applies it to red light therapy. Super interesting. Specific ways to use red light therapy for common basketball, knee, and ankle injuries for all of us basketball players out there. She includes downloads for some of her protocols, things you can do at home with home red light units. Talks about how to keep your vitamin D levels, which is really important up there, way north in Edmonton, Alberta. Again, just absolutely packed with information. Again, a joy and delight to speak with her. So please enjoy this wide-ranging conversation with Wendy Zelmer. Wendy, welcome to the StayOnTheCourt.com podcast. We certainly appreciate you being on. I'm super excited about this session. As I explained to people in the introduction, you are a red light therapist and expert, and I geek out on this stuff, so I'm going to have all kinds of questions for you. But to get us started, you're up there in Edmonton, Alberta. Can you just give a little brief outline of how you got into red light therapy and how you are incorporating that into what you're doing now in your practice?
Definitely. So, first of all, Troy, I just want to say it's my pleasure to be joining you here on Stay on the Court. I love the idea of your show, and I'm all about staying on the court in life, and that's what my therapy is all about. And so, how did I get started in doing what it is that I do?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I know some of your backstory, but I think it's interesting how you started out more in massage therapy, correct, and then graduated as some things happened in your life. That graduated you into the lane, I guess you're in now in red light therapy.
Yeah. Okay. So, Troy, I'm going to start at the beginning. How I got started to become a therapist really started when I was about 8 years old. My mom would get me to massage her. She had a big sander. She'd get me to use the sander on her hip. And we grew up on a farm. And back in those days, there wasn't a lot of therapists that you could go see. And so she started me off as a therapist, I think at about age 8. And then in 1990, well, actually 1989, I went to Grant McEwen Massage Therapy School, graduated from the advanced program in 1991. And I was doing massage therapy full time for just over 10 years. And even though I really loved what I did, there was something that I found really frustrating about massage, and that was that I could do a treatment on somebody, but it didn't seem to give a high percentage of my clients long-lasting results. And of course, my mom was someone that I was always trying to help and try to fix her problems. We grew up on a farm. We didn't have running water. There was 5 kids. Obviously, when I
Oh,
was
wow.
when I was 10, we got running water. But up until then, we didn't. And she would have to, well, okay, I should say this. Up until I was 5, there was no running water. Then when I was 5, we got running water, but still didn't have full plumbing. So my mom would have to go to the water pump, fill up 5-gallon pails, bring it into the house, and heat it up. And that's how she did things. And so, of course, my mom had a lot of injuries that I was trying to help her eliminate. And no amount of massage would get rid of those problems that she'd had for over 20 years. And she'd come in for a 2-3 hour session and she'd feel great and feel great for a week. She'd feel great for 2 weeks, but then that nagging injury would come back. When my mom rolled her vehicle, there was very minimal things that I could do for her when it came to massage therapy. Yes, it was always helpful, but did it eliminate her problems? No. She ended up having to have 2 hip surgeries after she rolled her van, and it just went from there. So in the year 2000, I started learning about inflammation from Dr. Perricone. And this was a real life-transforming moment. So I had had a pain in my foot for a couple of years, and I was just in my late 20s at that time. And I went to my doctor. She said it was arthritis, and I thought, really? Like, arthritis? I'm in my late 20s. Come on.
Right.
Yeah, come on.
Right.
That's a little crazy. And but whatever. I could still walk. I could still do my thing. And so I was just living with it. I started reading Dr. Perricone's books. He talked and taught about inflammation and how it really was the root cause for disease and for pain. And so I started eating the Perricone way. And I ate that way for a month and a half. And I was so strict, really, really strict. And during that month and a half, I noticed that the pain in my foot had gone away. But it's crazy because I didn't connect the two. Eating the Perricone way, inflammation, and the pain in my foot until one day I had a terrible, terrible day at work. And I came home and I 100% fell off the clean eating program. And, I had some nibs and probably ate a whole bag of them and chips and had a pop or 2. And it was just like, it was a bad day. And
The nibs will always get you.
oh, you got that right.
Always going to get you.
Yes, they always will. And this was a life-changing moment. When I woke up the next day, I got out of bed and that pain in my foot came back raging. And I said to myself, this is what Dr. Perricone is talking about. When you reduce inflammation in your body creates an environment for it to repair itself. And that's what happened to my foot. Then when I added some gasoline to the fire, which was all the sugar and the processed foods I ate the night before, that is like throwing gasoline on a fire, and it ignited in my body and I could feel that pain the next day. And that completely changed the course of my career because I started 100% focusing on inflammation. And so this was back in the year 2000. And I was working with my clients, teaching them how to make foods that were anti-inflammatory and how to reduce inflammation by the foods we eat, but also through reducing stress. In 2000, I was doing the anti-inflammatory. I had a very solid understanding of inflammation and how you can heal the body. But then something happened in the year 2004-ish, and that was I got a very bad sinus infection after a poor dentistry job. When the sinus infection popped up, I didn't think anything of it because I had never, ever had a health issue, anything serious, anyways. And I thought, okay, no problem. It's a sinus infection. It's going to go away. And it didn't go away. A year later, it's actually getting worse. So then I go to my doctor and she gives me a prescription. I'm not really into prescriptions, but at that point I was desperate and I'm willing to try anything. Prescription number 1 doesn't work. Prescription number 2 doesn't work. Prescription number 3 doesn't work. And after the third prescription, she's like, okay, we are dealing with something very serious here. You need to go to a specialist. We need to get some imaging done, some CAT scans, MRIs, the whole works. And in 2007, after all the imaging, all the specialists, what they want to do is they want to do surgery. And I thought to myself, well, like if the extreme prescriptions didn't work, how is doing surgery on a infection going to work? That didn't make sense to me.
Right.
And, you know, I was raised by a woman who definitely was a CEO of her health, and she taught me to be the CEO of mine. And she taught me to think for myself and to take actions to try to help myself. And I said, well, you know what? I know that infection is inflammation. I know that. And what if I just put everything I had into eliminating this infection? Eating clean. I remember what it did for my foot and going for all these holistic therapies. So I did that from 2007 until 2012. And the sinus infection would go up and down, bad, not bad. And it was like a rolly hill. But
Right.
I still just wasn't ready to get surgery. I just didn't feel right about it. And I do believe for me, listening to my intuition, along with, of course, working with medical professionals is very important to me. And then in 2012, that was the next life-changing moment, which brings me to why I'm doing what I do today. And in 2012, a friend of mine lent me his home light therapy device. And yeah, and I will tell you, it was divine intervention. And that I know for sure. So
my experience is that people just think I'm crazy.
Oh, well.
Because I'm the guy who's trying to give this to somebody because I've had one for 3 years. I'm like, you should try this. They're like, what? Why would I do that? I think because you're in a good mind space to be accepting of, hey, I'll do whatever we can to try and solve this. It sounds like you were open to it.
Well, actually, Troy, it's going to surprise you to hear I really wasn't. When he said to me, do you want to borrow my light therapy device? I said, no, because I'm thinking light therapy has got to be one of the biggest gimmicks going in health and wellness, because there are a lot of gimmicks in health and wellness. And so I was very negative about it, right? And I'm like, no, that's okay. Thank you for offering, but I'm good. And really, he was offering it to me for my hip. There was zero discussion about my sinus infection and using light therapy.
Right.
And
interesting.
Yeah, so I had a sore hip and he's like, Wendy, you've got to try this. And I'm like, honestly, I'm good. And he's like, no, you've got to try it. And he absolutely, it was like he was begging me to lend me his light therapy device.
Right.
So I thought, okay, fine, right? If you really, really want to lend it to me. And so he actually leaves my house, drives back to his house, comes back to my place with his light therapy device. And I thought, well, you know what? When something or someone is pounding at your door this hard, you better give it a try. And I always thought of myself as someone who was really open-minded. But now that I look back at that, I say I guess maybe I wasn't, but I am grateful for the divine intervention. I'm so grateful that he offered it to me, encouraged me, and great job to you, Troy, for sharing the light with your friends, because it 100% is a life-changing treatment. So he goes and gets a device. The next day, I start my treatment, and I really didn't know, what to do with it. But what I did know as a massage therapist was how important treating the lymphatic system was. Because when the body is inflamed and when you live with a infection for as long as I did, your body is inflamed on a cellular level from top to bottom, right? My body was in a state of fight or flight and very, very inflamed. So I thought, well, what if I just use the device on my lymphatic area? And my friend had suggested that using it on the lymphatic zone areas would be a good idea. And that completely made sense to me. And so I did the treatment that he recommended, but then of course I just expanded from there, taking my massage therapy knowledge. And so on Sunday, I did a very short treatment and I had zero expectations. Like really the only expectation I had was that it wasn't going to do a thing for me. And
like how much time it was going to take you to take it back to him. Right.
Yeah, I had no expectations, but I'm really happy for my mindset. So even though I didn't think it was going to do anything for me, I wasn't attached to proving that it wasn't going to do anything for me. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So,
it does.
yeah. So I wasn't attached to proving I'm going to be right and that light therapy wouldn't work for me. I just there was no attachment. So I used it for about, I would say 25, 30 minutes on Sunday. Monday, same thing. Tuesday, another 30 minutes. Wednesday, another 30 minutes. And then on Thursday, I said to myself, what I know for sure about massage therapy is that if you do a longer treatment, the body responds more effectively with a longer treatment. If you work on the full body instead of just parts of the body will respond more. So on that Thursday, I said, okay, I still haven't felt anything. I'm returning the device to him on Sunday. I'm going to use today to do a treatment for just under 2 hours. And so I started at my feet, and there's 72,000 nerve endings on each foot. I went behind my knees and I did the key lymphatic zone areas all the way up to the top of my head. And Friday morning, I woke up and I had felt better than I had felt in over 15 years. And I stopped in my tracks and said, what just happened? And that day, I was filled with more energy than I'd had in over 15 years. I just couldn't believe it. And I remember I just cleaned my house and organized, and I was just going from the minute I got up till 9 o'clock that night. And at 9 o'clock, instead of being exhausted, I was still bursting with energy. Saturday, I did the exact same treatment on my body. And there was just a little seminar happening in Edmonton on Saturday and Sunday that talked about that device. And so I, for sure, a week ago, was not going to that. But because I felt so great, I just canceled all my plans and I went to that event on Saturday and Sunday. My nose.
Oh, okay. So many questions. While you take care of the nose situation, I've got so many questions.
Okay, well.
Already generated.
Okay.
So you tell me if it's a good stopping point, because I warned you that I will nerd out on this stuff.
Okay, so I'll finish the story and then I'll say, okay, ask me your questions, because there's a couple different stop points, right? So,
okay.
So I went to this event on Saturday and Sunday, and I don't like to be negative about other companies, and even though this device had just helped me create such incredible results in my own body, I wasn't impressed with the company. And the owner of the company seemed to be a little bit, in my opinion, on the flaky side. So I decided to not buy that device. But I will tell you one thing. Giving it back to my friend on Sunday was the hardest thing I ever did because I didn't want to. I did not want to give it back to
Right.
him on Sunday. And, but of course, I made that commitment that I would, and he wanted it back, right? And so on Monday, that was the first thing I did was I got on the internet and I found a company that I could rent a home light therapy device from. And that company,
Mm.
they mainly focus on professional devices. And I told them, yeah, I'm a massage therapist. I'm looking to get into light therapy. And really, all I was looking to do is to rent a device, use it on my family to see, is it possible that somebody else could get any kind of results from light therapy, or is this just me, right? And before I
Right.
spent my money on anything, I wanted to make sure. So the device I rented was a $5,000 device, and it was very complex. Like,
Oh, wow.
yeah, it really it's an incredible device. It was a home light therapy device, but it had all these protocols written into not written. It had all these protocols programmed into the device. I rent the device for a month. I say to my sisters and my niece, "Hey, I have this light therapy device. I don't know if it's going to do anything for you or not. It's been the most amazing thing I've ever tried in my whole career as a holistic practitioner. Do you want to do an experiment with me? You have to commit to 6 days in a row, and I'm going to work on you for 1 hour every single day." Because basically, I wanted to duplicate on them what I did on myself, right? And
Right.
yeah, so they said yes. And so I worked on them for 6 days in a row, and we weren't talking the whole time they were there for their treatment, but I would ask them questions. I kept notes to see, like, are they noticing any changes and what changes are they noticing? And of course, I have 3 sisters, and obviously I know them. I've known them my whole life, and I know what their body issues were because they would come to me for massage. And it was so incredible. My 3 sisters and my niece, the changes that they had by on or before the 6th day, it just shocked me. And I thought to myself, how is this possible? How is this possible that putting a device that emits light is having this transformation? My one sister, she's about she was about 75 to 100 pounds overweight. She'd been overweight her whole life. And really, she was a single mom, didn't have a lot of time to take care of herself. And she was unable to pick up her foot, put it on her knee, and then tie her shoelaces, right? This is something very basic. She was unable to
Right.
do that because she didn't have the mobility.
Hmm.
On the 5th or the 6th day, she was lifting her leg up, putting it on her knee, tying her shoes, had 0 issues with mobility. And that didn't make sense to me because at that moment in time, I was still a very Western type of thinker and therapist. If I'm not touching you, how can I increase mobility in your body? But I know the answer to that now. When you reduce
Right.
inflammation on a cellular level, it increases a person's mobility. And that's exactly what happened with her. Never mind what happened to all of us mentally. But of course, when you're feeling better, you're just, mentally just flying high, right? And so
Right.
so after that, I said, okay, well, then I was looking at investing $50,000 in some professional equipment. And so
Okay.
yeah, like, I mean,
Yeah.
so when I get into something, I really get into it. But before you
Right.
make that kind of investment, you just really want to make sure that this is really for real. So I rented 2 professional devices for 3 months. And then that's when I made my big investment. I bought 2 professional BioFlex units. I spent $50,000 because I thought back in, so in 2012, I became certified in light therapy, and then, did all my renting of equipment. And then in 2013, I made the $50,000 investment because I thought at that time that if I could get these results with a home unit, that the professional device would be even more transformational. What's fascinating as over the last 12 years, what I've realized is that in some situations, professional devices are more transforming. In other cases, you don't need them. You can get transformational experience in your body with a home unit. And this specific treatment, the lymphatic drain treatment that I used on my body, that I used on my sisters, and that eliminated my sinus infection 4 months later, 100% could have, was done with the home unit. And so I started using light therapy in September. And by January 2013, my sinus infection was gone. And I didn't really know at that moment in time that it was gone. I knew I couldn't feel any symptoms, but I fully expected that, it would pop back up again. And it's been 12 years, and that sinus infection has never popped back up again. And Troy, you're going to find this very interesting. So I had what they call an antibiotic-resistant infection, which actually is very deadly because that infection can go to your brain and really cause a lot of problems. There's a billionaire who lives in Edmonton and Vancouver, and his name is Daryl Cates. And you can look him up on the internet. Anybody can, because this story is public. So he had an antibiotic-resistant sinus infection, and he went the medication route. I mean, he owns several pharmacies, so of course he's going to go medication route. He's a billionaire. He has access to the best medical care on the planet. The medication was unable to help him, so he went surgery route. In 2019, and that's what you'll see on the internet, they did a press conference because they weren't sure if he was going to live or die, right? And I think at that point they were pretty sure he was doing okay. I can't really remember the exact story, but they showed he was on a press conference and he was completely disfigured. And I just watched that and thought, wow, I am so glad that I chose to listen to my intuition, stay on the holistic route, and that light therapy eliminated my infection. And for it to be gone for 12 years, obviously, it's safe to say it's never coming back, right?
Now the questions have tripled in my mind.
Oh, okay. So
much stuff.
So I will just say this, and then I'm open to your questions. When people ask me, why are you so passionate about light therapy? It is something that completely saved my life. It is something that helped me eliminate my sinus infection when nothing else worked. And when I say nothing else worked, believe me, from 2007 to 2012, I wasn't playing around. I was trying all of the holistic tricks that I had in my bag to reduce inflammation. But what I knew and what I know for sure is there is nothing that will help your body reduce inflammation faster and create an environment for your body to heal than light therapy, because I lived it. All right. I'm open to your questions.
So I'm going to take you way back. And number one, I'm glad to hear that your mom forced you to do the massage on her, because I currently have my son periodically where we always debate, my wife and I, like, should we be making him do this? We'll have him get the Theragun and do our back where we can't get.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to know that that's okay to do.
Absolutely. Do it. Yeah.
So that is the least important of my question.
I actually, you know what? Like, I gave my mom a thank you card last week, and I said, thank you for teaching me how important it was to take care of my own body. And she never sat down and gave us a lesson. She just taught us through the actions. And
Right.
by me taking care of her, that was a huge lesson that I'm so grateful for. So your kids are lucky that you and your wife are doing that.
Yeah. Well, you tell them that.
Leave it in the podcast.
That they're lucky. That's right. That's right. So when you had that hip injury,
Yeah.
about what age frame were you, if you don't mind
Oh, yeah. No.
saying that? Is that
Oh, yeah. No. Like, so I have no issues talking about my age. Today, it's 2024. I'm 57 years old. When did I have the hip injury? So if we go back to 2012, because that's when I came across light therapy,
right?
57 minus 12 would put me at 45. 45.
And then from there to the point where you figured everything out, and the lymphatic treatments, what I'm super interested in,
Yeah.
also, is at what point did you feel like it had helped heal your sinus infection? Was that within a couple of years, 2 years, 6 months?
Oh, okay. So it was in 4 months. And at the end of 4 months, so in 2012, I was 45 years old. 2013, January 2013, I could say to myself, my sinus infection is gone. At that point in time, I said it's gone because I didn't feel any symptoms. Did I
Right.
know it was gone for the rest of my life? No, because I'd lived with that sinus infection for so long, but it took
Right.
from 2012, September 2012, I was 45, to January 2013, 4 months, my sinus infection was gone.
Okay, so now I'm going to take a huge aside. So I started a concert series in Omaha, Nebraska, bringing people from Nashville up to Omaha. It was my first midlife crisis.
Okay.
Super fun to do. And there was a female artist. Her name was Katrina Burgoyne.
Yeah.
I'd seen when I was in Nashville, and when I had this concept, she was one of the people that I brought up. And she was from Australia,
Okay.
came here. She couldn't work except for doing music because that's what her visa said. So she didn't have a lot of money. And I felt so bad for her because she came down with an infection, like an just like what you had. She would post on Instagram and Facebook, and she just struggled and struggled and struggled. And I can't remember how or if it's resolved, but this is what I think about, right? So like stay on the court, I kind of use as my personal diary because I want something if I have an Achilles injury or I have an infection or I have something, I want my little notebook of library of things to go try, because I think that's the issue is people don't necessarily get exposed to these things through allopathic Western medicine. Not that this is a medical show necessarily, or we're giving you medical advice, but it's just exposing people that there are other modes of therapy that you can try. So that's incredibly interesting to me. So now the final kind of geek out question I will ask about it. Do you know that original light therapy device that he loaned you, was that just red light near infrared, or was it some sort of blue light? Do you remember what kind of light therapy device it was?
Yes, so it was a light therapy device that had the red light, the near infrared light, and it also
Right.
had it was a device that you could put on continuous wave or a pulse. So it did have a pulsing feature to it.
So now, and tell me if we don't need to get there now, if we want to talk about it later, but this, I'm going to call it this methodology. I'll say that you created it because I'd never heard of it before. So like walk me through what that looks like to hit red lights on certain parts of your body. And was it something that you would do one wavelength here and then you move down to, I don't know, is it the chakras that look at the different parts of the body? Were you using different frequencies on different parts of the body, or what did that look like?
Yeah, very interesting, because people who are into light, they Some people really focus on what's the nanometers or what's the frequency, right? Really thinking
Right.
that those aspects of light therapy are the most important thing. And truly, the most important thing when it comes to light therapy is the placement, following the proper recommended protocol. So what I mean is that if you think back to what I was saying, I did my treatments every day. I did my sister's treatments every day. Light therapy is cumulative. So what I did on the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday led up to what I experienced and Thursday. What I did on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday led up to the experience that I had on Friday. And the mistake people make when it comes to light therapy is they aren't consistent with the proper protocol. They are hit and miss. And if you want to have incredible experience, a restorative healing experience with light, you must be consistent with following the recommended treatment plan. So let's say I had a recipe, Troy, and I actually do have a recipe. It's a bread recipe, and I've won a cooking contest with it. And that was kind of a big deal because it was a pretty amazing cooking contest. Now, if I give you that recipe and you don't follow it, you're not going to get great results. And this is the problem I see in light therapy is people have no idea what they're doing. And then they sit back and say, well, light therapy doesn't work. So no, light therapy works and it always works, but you must follow the recipe. And so I'm going to grab my chart and just so you know, Troy, I'm going to share a link with you and all of your listeners. If they click on the link, they're going to get a video that shows them exactly how to do the treatment that I'm talking about. They're going to also get this PDF if they want it. It's a downloadable PDF. And it's the treatment plan that I'm talking about that I recommend. And then there's a couple of other things in here. And they'll also listen to Simon's story, Simon was misdiagnosed, taken right off the court. And after he did this treatment himself at home.
Right.
After a month, he had no more pain and he was off all the opioids he was addicted to. But we'll get into that later. So Troy, you're going to get all of this in a video, and so will your listeners if they want to click on the link and download it. But for anybody who's watching the interview on YouTube, this will give them a visual. And yes, this is a treatment protocol that I've created. I've created this over the last 12 years. Really, I would say probably like 2017, 2018, that's when I had it perfected. Okay. And so when I bought my professional equipment, which I have BioFlex, I have K-Laser, they gave me training, but the training that I have as a massage therapist and the experience I have as a massage therapist and the experience I have on my own body and what my clients experience in clinic has helped me create this. This is where this treatment protocol has come from. And so there's actually 3 versions of this treatment. There is the long version, which started from the feet and went all the way up to the top of my head. And what I was focusing on is the lymphatic drain areas. I was focusing on stimulating the 72,000 nerve endings on each foot because it kind of makes sense. If you want to have a positive impact on your body, why would you not focus on the 72,000 nerve endings that are in your feet, right?
Right.
But That's the long treatment. This is the 9 placement medium treatment. And then there's also a short treatment. And so anyways, when you download this, Troy, you're going to get this exact treatment protocol, and you'll see the circles of where you would actually place your device. So the tailbone and the adrenals. Then, of course, you're looking at the right below the belly button, the sternum, the chest, in between the eyes and the top of the head. And some people will call these the chakra points because, they are, but they're also key energy centers in their body, but they're also working from the tailbone all the way up the spine to the top of the head. And working on your spine in itself, and I learned this from my K laser training, can completely eliminate pain. It doesn't do it all the time, but I have had clients that live remotely. They are unable to come and see me in clinic. So they have a home device. I've taught them how to use the device specifically on their pain area. But when there's so many pain areas, I say to them, what I want you to do is take your device and work from your tailbone all the way up to, for sure, the occipital ridge. And then 3, 4, 5, 6 days later, they text me, email me, call me and say, how'd that eliminate all my pain? Well, when you think about the brain communicates to the spine communicates to the whole body, the whole entire body is connected. And I think that that's actually one of the weaknesses in Western medicine. I am grateful for Western medicine, but there are weaknesses. And when we don't connect the whole body, that's a big mistake.
Oh, I've got a rabbit hole to take us down at this point. Some things I'm thinking of the way I'm doing my red light therapy based on what you've just told me.
So I did want to just add one more thing. Doing the lymphatic drain treatment, one of the most important things that you need to do when doing the lymphatic treatment is do it in a state of silence and stillness. So when people are doing lymphatic drain treatment, this particular treatment, while they watch TV, while they sit on the phone, while they're reading a book, it diminishes the results because part of what's happening is that when the nervous system is at complete stillness and rest, that's when the lymphatic system is able to open up and release the inflammation most effectively.
Got it. So if you're on the YouTube channel, you will notice that I have made a location change. This is co-working life, just happens, but Wendy's in the same place. So not to confuse people if they're watching this on the YouTube channel. So to get into, I find the whole lymphatic thing fascinating. I think I told you that I've had a Juve Mini infrared red light for, it's got to be at least 3 years or so. Yep. Never thought once to use it on the bottom of my feet. I'd put it on the ankles and I've got like a grounding pad that I'll have my feet on when I'm doing it. Just never, ever occurred to me. And I'm now going to a place here in Omaha called Elevate. And they've got, I think they're platinum. They have like 2 panels. So I do full body, and I'm experimenting with that for about 3 months to see how I feel. Do that, especially when we get very little good light here in the 3 winter months. But what I wanted you to speak about is, so I see just from the diagram you showed us that it's very targeted. And I think I've seen some of the devices that you use, and they're more kind of targeted red light things. And I've seen those out on the market. I don't own one.
Yeah.
If I am going on like I am now, and I'm doing red light, like full body treatments for about 15 minutes, I'd say 5 days a week, versus doing that more targeted approach, am I getting 20% of the benefit, 80% of the benefit, none of the benefit, versus if I was doing some sort of protocol like you're showing us?
You are always going to get benefit when you're exposing your body to light therapy. But if you want to have a complete transformation, you 100% must be doing targeted treatments. You must be.
And is it because the light is more intense in those devices on those particular areas? Or does it have to do with the sequencing of doing it one at a time? Or what do we think that the special sauce is?
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to bring out my massage therapy hat. And so
Okay.
I want you to imagine that you would be able to go for a 15-minute massage and have, let's say, 4 people working on your whole body at one time.
It's very expensive. Very expensive.
But let's just say the price was the same as
Okay.
one therapist who sat down and said to you, what are your problem areas? And focused on, let's say you said, okay, like my lower back down, I'm really tight. My quads, my hamstrings are really tight. If that therapist said, I'm going to focus from the waist down and did an extensive massage on the glutes, on the hamstrings, on the quads, on the calf, do you think that the blood flow to those areas while the therapist specifically was focused on that muscle group would be more beneficial than a lesser amount of blood flow throughout the entire body during a 15-minute session?
A. Oh, no. Oh, my bad. Nope. B.
Yeah,
I'll change my answer to B.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Can I change my answer? Yes, Troy, you can change your answer. So basically, when you want to fix a problem, there's two different problems that people have that I've mainly seen over the last 30 years, but specifically using light over the last 12. Now, some people, they have pain and they'll come in and I'll work on just that pain area. So I'll just tell you about Janet, for example. And, when Janet came in, she had a hip problem and, she needed the devices direct on the hip for sure. And so I actually used my K laser on Janet and we did treatments in the clinic. And if she would have gone and laid under even 2 light therapy devices, right, full panels, or stood in front of panels, there is no way that those panels would have generated the blood flow to the hip area the way the K laser generated, because you only have so much blood in your
Okay.
body, right? And when you
Right.
focus treatment on a specific area, there's more blood flow to that area. And what does that blood flow do? Blood carries oxygen, oxygen is healing, but when you have like a flood of blood flow to an area, it's also very cleaning, isn't it? It's like power washing your deck over a sprinkler. And so targeted treatment is really important, but so is, let's go back to the lymphatic, looking at Janet's situation. She came in and she had hip problems. She thought she needed a new hip, actually. The K laser was able to eliminate her problem, but then a week later, the pain started coming back. And so I said, just use your device on the lymphatic drain, because maybe you don't have a hip problem, maybe you have an inflammation problem. And she used the home device on the lymphatic drain, and within, I think it was 3 or 4 days, the pain was back down to a 0. Now, again, using the devices direct on the tailbone, direct on the adrenals, direct on the placement areas that I was telling you about and that I showed you in the diagram, what that does is it allows the body to absorb more of the light. So I would never say that the treatment you're getting with the full panels isn't helping you, but you are not getting maximum absorption of the light. And that's really what you want, is maximum absorption of the light. And if you look at any professional device, all professional device companies train their therapists to have the device direct on their body, direct contact. Now, there are some businesses.
Interesting.
Oh, absolutely. There's not one professional device company that says stand in front of a panel and you're going to get the therapeutic results that we're looking for, right? And this is another thing, Troy, that you're going to find very interesting, and so will your listeners. Panels were never used in the studies that have gotten light therapy to the credible place where it's at. It was devices that were directly placed on the body. The companies that make panels, they're taking the science from devices that were placed direct on the body. They're taking the science and they're sharing that science with you. And people hear it and they think, oh, I guess if I get a panel, I'll get those exact same results. But I will use a cooking example. If you are wanting to smoke a ham, you need to use a smoker. You can't just get a barbecue and expect that you're going to get the same results. Does that make sense?
Right. Yes. Well, now I'm going to have to spend more money because now I'm convinced that I need to go get these these individual devices, and that I really didn't occur to me. I've seen it says that Kineon is a company that does some more, like they do a consumer version, but it's more targeted. And I said, okay, if people are making that, there's got to be something to it, right? Where there's some additional benefit to having it really close to your skin. But I would have never thought to put my Juve device, or even when I'm going to this facility Elevate to get my red light therapy, to be really close to the device. I always heard like 6 inches to 18 inches or something of that nature.
So the reason why you hear 6 inches away, 18 inches away, is because, again, when you look at a panel originally was a grow light. So the casing of the panel, okay? So I'm just going to grab I have a panel just so I can say, hey, I've got a panel, and I use the panel and basically didn't get any results. Because how can I have opinion about something if I've never used it? And again, not that having a panel isn't going to do anything for you, but this originally, the body was a grow light, and the companies that wanted to get into light therapy on the cheap, okay, just meaning, when I say the cheap, meaning they didn't want to spend a lot of money on developing a product. They got the grow light. They took the grow light out, and then they put the LEDs in. Now, this device, this gets hot, and it gets hot fast because the LEDs are big. And I can tell you, heat does not equal the best treatment. Actually, the cooler your device runs, the better treatment results you'll get. And so that's why there's so much confusion in the light therapy industry, is because there are people who said, hey, we want to get into the light therapy industry. We're going to start making these panels. We've got a lot of money to invest in marketing. And what's happened is that there's so many people out there, and you included, who thought, well, yeah, like just standing in front of a light, that's going to give me all the scientific research results. No. And so, That's where therapists like myself, that's where professional companies like K-Laser, like BioFlex, who have over 30 years, these companies have over 30 years in research and development and training of medical professionals. That's where their information is really the standout. And that's where I get my information from, my training, and of course, just working in my own clinic and seeing the results that I get from clients. But, with the panels, they're giving you instructions because they don't want their device to burn you. They're not giving you instructions
Yes.
for the best therapeutic results. And for me, I'm going to give you instruction for the best therapeutic result. And if a device isn't going to give you the best therapeutic result, I'm not even going to talk about that device because I am very attached to getting the best therapeutic result in the shortest period of time. And
Right.
when you talked about like how you didn't even think about working on your feet, that's why working with a therapist, hiring someone who really does have that experience with light therapy, whether you work with them in their office or whether you work with them virtually, like I offer virtual sessions for people. That's why it's so important, is because if you want to be fast tracked on the path of health and wellness, work with a professional. It's like a chef. You work with a professional chef, they give you a few cooking lessons, boom. You're a star in the kitchen forever.
Yeah, and it's well, now I don't feel quite as stupid for getting between those panels.
Oh,
And this is not going to probably
don't.
translate on YouTube. Well, no, so I'll get up, right, and then I will like raise my foot like this, I try to do all these different poses. So you have to go to YouTube if you want to see that what that looked like.
I love it. I'm going to go to YouTube for sure.
Right, but I never really thought about, like, I thought about getting a chair and like putting my feet up, but that'd be really easy to do with my Juve light, is turn it on its side and have the bottom of the feet. But I know the bottom of the foot's important. There's lots of nerve things, but with the red light, I just never thought about it.
Yeah. And
that is the price of admission. Listen to this podcast right there. That's worth it.
Love it.
So this is going to probably take me into, you know what? Let's veer off because you're probably going to have to go back to your practice at some point today. Let's talk about a couple of things that happen in the basketball world, since we talk a little more basketball here and keeping guys, women and men on the court as long as possible. Mm-hmm. So obviously there is a lot of ankle and knee injury.
Yes.
And I know you talked a little bit about some protocols or ththings that you could do, prepare your body to prevent injury. Mm-hmm. What might be some things or a protocol someone might maybe want to be on just to put your body in the best state to prevent these types of injuries? And then do you have maybe a couple examples of people who've come into you with ankle or knee injuries, and what does a protocol like that look like?
Yes. Yeah. So prevention, I always say that there's either like the best way to stay on the court is through prevention and or the fastest recovery possible. And that's treating your injury the minute that it happens. But let's talk about prevention. So I have to bring up stretching, because stretching is actually one of the most preventative techniques that we can use that will really help prevent injuries. And in my opinion, stretching is even more important when it comes to prevention than light therapy. Now, and of course, that's crazy that I would say that because I love light therapy so much. But when your muscles are tight, you are walking that fine line, that tightrope of injury, okay, when your muscles are tight. And will light therapy help loosen up your muscles? Absolutely. But there's nothing that will take the place of stretching. So I hope that's not disappointing to hear that.
Yes, I want to know that if I red light therapy for 7 minutes a day, mm-hmm. every day, mm-hmm. that I'll never get injured. That's what I want.
Oh, okay. Well,
and I know that that's probably not possible.
Well, So if
Or
a
I
person,
just same thing, right? It's like take a pill or something, right? It's just everybody's always looking for that silver bullet. I was going to say I've taken some. I've just never been a very bendy, stretchy person, so it's the last thing that I ever want to do. But over the last 2 or 3 years, I finally have done some things. There's a Coach Sommer was a U.S. Olympic coach, and he did a Tim Ferriss podcast and talked a lot about just the basic things you can do every day.
yeah.
And it's unbelievable once I just started even doing those things 2 or 3 times a week, how much my back and my hamstrings and all that loosened up.
Yes. Yeah. It's, when you think about why does a person get injured? And a lot of people think that they were injured because of what they did on the court. In reality, they were probably building up to that injury. And they were probably in that state of injury for a while. Because what I know for sure is, so I'm going to use this as an example. Actually, do you mind if I just put you on pause? I want to do a better example, but not very many people will
Sure.
be watching this. I want to get some
Well, we
shoelaces.
don't know. This could
Yeah.
go viral. We never know.
Okay.
Let's
Well,
get
yeah, you're right.
shoelaces.
You're right. Okay, I'm going to grab the shoelaces because this is big. You're
All
going to
right.
love this. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So what I want you to do is imagine that this is a muscle. Okay, in your leg, and you're 20 years old and your muscle is this long. And, you have a motorcycle accident. Maybe you have an injury when you're playing basketball. Maybe when you're playing with the kids, wrestling, you have another injury. And, nothing major, just, these little injuries that come along.
Right.
Okay. So from 20 to 30, now all of a sudden your muscle knots. You have knots in the muscle from different injuries. And now your muscle has shortened, right? You can see how the string is shortened. Now from 20 to
Yep.
30, maybe you do a marathon that you don't train for properly, and you don't really do all the stretching that you're supposed to do. Maybe there's like a car accident along the way. And maybe there's like a fracture of a couple bones. And this doesn't have to just be in the legs, because when you have injuries in other parts of the body, the muscles start shortening. So now you're 40 and a muscle that was supposed to be way longer than this is shortened. So then,
Right.
and then 50. Okay, all the sitting at work has shortened the muscles for sure. All the stress, okay, stress is going to take your muscles and make them so tight, and it's really going to have a shortening effect. So now the muscle's actually supposed to be that long. Now it's this long, and then you're going to be the weekend warrior. This is why people are at such high risk of injury, because their muscles have shortened over the years, because we haven't taken the time to do the proper stretching. And that's why starting at about 45, you feel a few aches and pains. After people turn about 50, 51, they really start feeling the pain. It's not because they're getting older. It's just because the muscles are shortening. And I say this to my clients, and I say this to my family all the time. If you would spend 30 minutes a day stretching, you would never need me, and you would need your light therapy device less.
30 minutes. It's one of those things that I don't want it to be true, but I know it's true.
You know what?
Right.
I don't want it to be true either. Like
Right.
I am definitely not the good news person all the time, right? But the nice thing
Right.
is that let's say you said, for the next 10 days, I'm going to stretch for 30 minutes a day. Then after 10 days, you say, okay, because there's a cumulative effect of stretching also.
Right.
And, like I could say to you, absolutely, use your device for 10 minutes every day. And is that going to help you? Yes. But most of the people that I work with are 50 and up, and they have to do the stretching. They have to, because light therapy will not alone restore your muscle back to the length it is supposed to. And again, like, that's where some information within health and wellness, you have to really look at it and say, is this information right? Or is it a sales pitch? Right? Big difference between those two.
Yep.
Yeah.
Every day. And I think as humans, right, we want the easy fix. We want it to be easy. And so we're so easily fooled into, oh, now that's the silver bullet, or this is the silver bullet. And I've just told my daughter, right, so we're raising kids that are on devices too much.
Yeah.
And, I was reading her an article, or maybe I was making it up to make my point. I'm not sure, but how, the kids are starting to get a little hunched over.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, what? Well, how does that happen? I was like, you're on your device. I said, every day I do a dead hang, right? Where I just go to a chin-up bar and hang. And it's unbelievable how it just feels like the spine just is kind of falling back into place.
Yeah.
I've got articles on the Stay on the Court about dead hang, and also what's called a Jefferson curl, which is just kind of bending your back, using a weight to kind of pull yourself down, and just hamstrings and back. And I just never stretched in my life until probably about 3 to 5 years ago. My wife's into yoga. And I understand when I do it, how much better you feel.
Yeah.
And I am so much flexible now than I was at any point ever in my life, even when I was younger.
Yeah.
So again, yes, I don't want it to be true, but it's true.
Yeah, I definitely don't want it to be true either, but it is. And so really, for prevention, my number one tip for preventing an injury, number one, has got to be stretching. And then the number two would be, for sure, if you're using light therapy, even if you're only using it 3 to 4 times a week on the muscle groups that you use quite extensively, that's going to actually make the muscle healthier. And anytime something is healthier, it's just going to perform better during the activity. But also, if a person is strong and healthy and they're, let's say, in an accident, they get an injury, it won't be as bad usually, or they'll recover faster, right? And light therapy does help the muscle and the tissue and the cells. It elevates the health of everything in the body.
So if somebody did have a knee injury, maybe it's a MCL or ACL or something where maybe it's not going to be surgery, but they need to do some things, what would be, and let's just say that they have a home Juve device or something of similar grade. I've had some confusion with some things that I've read where they said, once you've done the red light on a Tuesday, you're fully charged and it really won't do anything until Thursday. Like there's no need to do that. Is that true? Or if somebody's got an acute injury like that, should you be doing it every day, 3 times a day for 20 minutes? Or is there any point where it's too much?
Okay. Those are great questions. And when I hear people say that, oh, well, I was told to just do the treatment on Tuesday and then I'm charged up until Thursday. Wherever they got that advice from, those people had no idea what they were talking about. And this is the problem with light therapy, is there's so much information out there that is absolutely not true, because manufacturers of home devices, they are not experts in the treatment of light therapy. They're just kind of like making things up as they go. And I'm not talking about all manufacturers, but so many. Okay. So first of all, I'm going to show you the exact area that you're going to want to work. And then I'm going to tell you the exact treatment protocol. And then I'm going to tell you about the cumulative effect that you absolutely must follow if you want to heal your injury. So again, like in the download, you are going to get a video where I'm going to show you exactly how to treat the knee and the ankle, because I know that those are major injuries for people in the basketball world. And so it'd be kind of cool if you had this in a video that was like 2 minutes long instead of, having to fast forward. But you see, this is my K laser book. And with the training that you get from a professional device company, they show you exactly where you have to use the laser if you want to have maximum effect, maximum restorative effect of the device. And so a lot of people think, oh, well, my knee hurts, so I'm only going to work on the top of my knee. You cannot just work on the top of your knee. You have to work from about the middle of your shin up to the middle of your calf. You have to work on both sides of the knee, but you also have to work behind the knee. Behind the knee is an area called the popliteal area, and that's such an important area to put your light device, and your knee absorbs the light from under the kneecap. Very important. And we also have lymph nodes behind the knee. You want to open up those lymph nodes if there's been an injury, because what happens is when there's an injury, there's a lot of inflammation. A lot of inflammation will back up the lymphatic system, and then that inflammation has no place to go. And so what you want to do is from the middle of the calf up to the middle of the hamstring, treat the back of the leg. Do the same on the front and then working on the sides. Now, how long do you leave your device in those areas? And I'm going to speak from a pad system, okay? Because I don't treat with a panel. I don't recommend treatment with a panel. My treatment is always direct on the skin. And so when I'm using I'm going to use this as an example because this is an LED with red and an LED with infrared. And that is what people are going to be using at home is a device with those two diodes in it. And basically with the BioFlex, again, over 30 years of research, development, and in-clinic treatment, what they do is each placement is for minimum 6 minutes with the red, 6 minutes for the infrared. So that's 12 minutes that the device is on each placement. And when I talk about placement, like that's a placement, right? Behind your leg.
Right.
That's a placement. And so if you happen to have, like, let's say a short device, you're going to have to do more placements than, let's say, if you have a bigger, longer device, right? Does that make sense?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so,
it does.
Yeah. So depending on the size of your device, depends on how many placements, but basically all you have to know is where exactly you have to work. Now, I always recommend that you never want to do less at home than what I would do in the clinic, obviously, right? Because what you want is you want therapeutic results at home. Can you get them? Yes, but you must follow the treatment protocol. So each placement is 12 minutes, and you must do your treatment 3 days in a row. And then for the best results, the fastest results, because that's what you want, right? When you're injured, you're not like, oh, well, whatever. Who cares how long this takes? You want the fastest results.
No, we got to get back out there.
You got that right. And so with a home device, you could treat it every day. Do you have to treat it every day? No, you could treat it every second day, but you will not hurt yourself by treating it every day.
Got it. So a couple of things.
Yeah.
So number one, comparison. So I see that the book has got the places. So we've got a book sitting in our living room where we do our stretching and theragunning, and I think it's called Trigger Point Therapy.
Okay.
That kind of reminds me of what I'm seeing here. It's like you wouldn't expect to have to work a certain part of the body, but it kind of guides you through. If you're trying to loosen up this, then yeah, you've got to go hit this, this, and this.
Yeah.
So I see some similarities. And number two is right now, I'm so happy I started this podcast just for this right here. This is great. So,
oh, well, I'm glad that you're happy, and I'm glad that you're learning some things, Troy. I'm so happy. That just makes me feel great. Yeah.
If you can go look at the downloads, but if you're on the podcast here, it's worth going in the show notes and going to the YouTube channel to see this, because just kind of what Wendy's just pointed out is it's just really cool, and it just is giving you a prescription. If you've got a knee injury, yes, if you can find a professional therapist or work with Wendy or somebody, because I love the idea of being able to talk to someone like you, and just to even get a prescription of what I should be doing if I'm doing red light therapy.
Well, and I also have a free Facebook page. Do you want me to put the link in the download that I'm giving you?
All the resources that you have that you're willing to give away, we'll put it all in the show notes. Yes, it'll be in the description, and then over on YouTube. And then I also do on Stay on the Court, I'll have a whole page dedicated to this podcast.
Okay, because for example, Troy, like let's say you had an injury and you were in the Facebook group. You could just post a question and say, hey, Wendy, had this injury. What do you think is the best way to treat it? And I'll either answer your question or I'll just go in and do a quick live. And what I do is, like, let's say somebody said, hey, Wendy, like they're in the Facebook group, I have an ankle injury. I would just bring out my beautiful K-Laser book and I would say, okay, every place where you see it that is red, that is considered a placement. And you want to cover each one of these areas for minimum 12 minutes. And you want to do your treatment 3 days in a row. And then you can cut back to every second day. And I always say to people, when you're doing your treatment, don't just stop when you don't feel pain anymore. Give yourself at least another 5 treatments. And the reason why is because, and I know that you know this, when you have an injury and then you think it's gone, but then you start doing stuff again, it comes back. Have you ever lived that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
MCL injury about, not that I'm keeping track, December of 2021.
Okay.
So my first time coming back to basketball after COVID, and here I get the MCL injury that sidelines me again.
Darn it. Well, yeah. And depending on how bad the injury is would really depend on how long I would recommend continuing to treat that area. A lot of people are afraid of the light. And again, I really believe that the reason why so many people are afraid of the light is because panels are big in the light therapy world as far as marketing goes. Okay. And with a panel, because they get so hot, you can't use them for a long period of time. But the truth is that when you have an injury, the longer you treat that injury, and especially if you're in the acute state, you can actually sometimes make it like it never happened. So 7 years ago, I was in a big hurry taking my recycle out, and I had this huge thing of recycle, and I fell from the top of my stairs right down to the bottom. There was 5 stairs, and it's the cement landing. And I fell right on my left side, and I fractured 2 ribs. And I knew something serious had happened. It was about 11 o'clock at night. And I just drug myself up the stairs, and I used my light therapy devices on my body for about 4 hours. And the next day went to the doctor, of course, x-rays. And yeah, there was 2 ribs that were fractured. A week later, I go back, and I had treated myself aggressively with the light therapy devices. And I was treating myself minimum 4 hours every day, direct on the fracture, but I did my lymphatic drain and other surrounding areas of the rib, and they couldn't see the fracture. Now, I mean, I certainly was not fully healed. I had some pain left, right? But it was amazing to me. And a friend of mine, and he's my neighbor, he's a radiologist, and we got together because he couldn't even believe it. He's like, there's no way that light eliminated the fracture. There's no way. I'm like, well, Carl, you're the radiologist. Like,
Right.
let's look at my x-rays. It was so cool. I was
Right.
over at his house on the big screen, and yeah, it was super cool.
In instances like those, is that, again, the same, I'll call it a cocktail of red light and near infrared light?
Well, I did use red light and near infrared light. I do like the combination, but you know what? If you only have red light, if you only have near infrared light, just use it. Because what
Right.
I've learned over the last 12 years with my clients is that, like, I've offered several different types of home devices to my clients. And if they use the device in the way I recommend it, they all have great success. Now, okay, but there's a caveat to that. You can't, like, if you're getting a device, let's say from a website that sells light therapy, motor oil, Kleenex, stainless steel pots. You're not,
Amazon.
I don't want to say any words. I don't want to say any names, okay?
Okay.
But you're not buying a professional device. When you buy, like, there's a lot of companies out there who are selling devices, and they're not all good. I would say the majority of the companies aren't good. There are a few companies out there who are doing their own studies, and they're proving the efficacy of their device. And so it is important, if you're going to get a device, make sure you get a good one, and look at my YouTube channel or reach out to me in Facebook, and I'll recommend the devices that I really like. Like this one, for example. I really like this device, but I'm not a big promoter of it because I don't like their warranty. If something goes wrong, you have to pay to ship it back to Taiwan to get it like warranty work.
Right.
And so, I mean, there's no perfect company out there. I will tell you that, but there are devices that are much better than the others. And let's face it, if you're using light therapy to recover from an injury, you want to recover as fast as possible.
Right. Do you have a list of companies that you would consider credible that in the consumer space that you'd be willing to share? We don't have to recount them right now, but maybe in the show notes or.
Absolutely, I do. I have it's a small list because I'm very particular when it comes to companies I'm going to recommend. And but I want to tell you about this company, and you may or may not want to leave it in. I don't know. But a lot of people get confused when they're looking for a really good device. And they get confused because I'm going to bring up two companies. Curavie
All right.
is a company that I really love. I love their device. And it runs off of a lithium battery. So it's nice because you can put this on your body, strap it on,
Right.
and like actually be on the go. And there's not like a million cords all over the place. But when you go to their website, they only talk about using the device on the low back. And I can't tell you how many people have reached out to me and said, well, is it safe? Is it safe for me to use this somewhere else other than my low back? Because the website says I should only use it on my low back.
Right.
Curavie has gone to the time and the expense to prove the efficacy of reducing pain in the low back. And so that's how they are marketing their device. They're a company that is definitely a step above most others because, they're working with doctors who are doing clinical trials with their devices, and they don't want to make a claim in general. So they do a scientific study and they make the claim for the low back. But the truth is that you absolutely can use this device anywhere on your body, and you're going to get outstanding results. And so I hope that people can understand that. And, like with the BioFlex, I would never just use this on one area of your body, whether I use my professional device on, because it's light therapy, it's an LED light therapy, whether I use it on the shoulder or the hip or the knee, it's going to work. Like, does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So are those the two companies, BioFlex and
so
you called it CureV?
So for home units, this is the CureV. Now, the BioFlex, they have a great home unit also, but their units are $2,500. And even though I think they're great, I don't think that it's the best one on the market. The reason why, it's because it's small. Like, this is my professional one. This is my pro one.
Right.
So the home one is small. It takes a long time to cover a big part of a big area of the body. And, I'd rather see you buy 2 devices. Like, they're around $1,000. So I'd rather see you buy 2 devices for $2,000 than 1 device for $2,300. And, because having 2 devices is very helpful. But I want to show you this other one too. Like, this is a neck and décolleté. So this device is actually only marketed for skin tightening, and it's an Omnilux. And so this device would be, it's under $375. I don't know. American, it costs around $375. And it has red light in it, and it has near infrared light, and it runs off a USB battery pack. Okay. Yeah. And it's soft and it's silicone. So when I had my knee injury this summer, I would strap this to my knee. I'd strap it above my knee, and then this would sit in the back of my knee, the popliteal area, and I would kind of strap it around. And then I would flip it and wear it on the front of my knee. Like, it was amazing. I'd go get my hair done, and I'd have my light therapy device on the whole time. But this device, it is only marketed for skin tightening. And so when I tell people about this device, they're confused. They're so confused. And they're like, yeah, but it just is for skin tightening. It doesn't say anything about pain elimination. Once again, Omnilux is a step above the average company, where they have prove the efficacy of this device for skin tightening. And I like companies that prove the efficacy of their device, because I know then their diodes are a good quality, because all light therapy diodes are not created equally. So does that make sense?
It does make sense. It's just, now I'm just opening my, even more questions, of course. So I'll give you an example. So the place I'm going now is, they have, the devices are, I think they're called platinum LED. And I haven't asked them to change the settings. So I think they're giving me what are the default settings, and it does red light, near infrared, and blue light. Is there any reason, is your experience that if you have all 3, it lessens the intensity of any one of them? Because if you've got the red light and the near infrared going and the blue light, then it's sacrificing something, right? One of the wavelengths or one of the things is not as intense as it could be if maybe you just were using the red light or just the red and near infrared. My Juve device it does red and near infrared at the same time. Blue light was new to me, but I figured it was fine, so I haven't had them shut it off when I go in for these treatments.
So it really depends on how the device was made, right? So some devices are made where there's 100 red diodes, 100 infrared diodes, 100 blue. And if you want all of them to run at the same time, then only half the blue, half the red, half the infrared can be running, right? And
Got it.
that's usually how the devices are made, but every device is made differently, and I can't comment for sure on what you're sacrificing, but I will tell you this. Dr. Michael Hamlin, he is the godfather of light therapy. Michael Hamlin. He has
Right.
written hundreds of papers that have been published in very credible medical journals about light therapy. And he specifically says that your body absorbs minimal blue, and he's not an advocate of blue light just because of that, right? There's minimal
Right.
absorption, and really, unless you have acne, then it's not really that important, according to Michael Hamlin.
Funny you should say that, because I was trying to get my 13-year-old daughter, before we spent a boatload of money on Accutane,
Yes.
to start doing, just use my red light therapy, at least, to
Yep.
start. And of course, she didn't want to do it. She thinks it's weird. I get it. But anyways, so she didn't, and we've done the Accutane, and we're not going to get in that conversation. But for acne, is red light therapy and near infrared effective also, or is that really truly like a blue light thing?
Well, so for acne, there's no doubt that red light absolutely helps with acne, because acne is very inflammatory, right? And what red light does, and what near infrared light does, is it reduces inflammation. So that will help with the acne. But red is also a wound healer. And so it helps heal whatever might be on the skin. But if I had a severe acne problem, if I had a daughter with acne problem, what I would do is I would purchase an Omnilux soft silicone face mask, and they have these face masks in blue specifically for acne, and it's not a gimmick. It truly does work. And so, It absolutely truly works. Now, and what I love about light therapy, and especially using it for kids who have acne, is that you are not exposing them to the harmful effects of medication. Right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we puzzled over that for a long time. Did it? It's been fine, but if we could have just had this when I was 14 years old, that would have
been amazing.
Saved me a lot. As a matter of fact, and you maybe not register this, but since this is a lot of basketball, I went to Kansas basketball camp, which is it's a well-known basketball school here in the United States. And I got a picture with Larry Brown when I think I was either 14 or 15, and he was this legendary coach. And I to this day can't get that picture out to show anybody, because I am so pancaked, with acne, and stick up hair, the whole thing. Yeah. So if I just would have known about the blue light back in 1985.
I know, Troy.
My life could have been different.
Well, honestly, if all kids had access to a light therapy device and could eliminate their acne, it would be the greatest thing that could ever happen to them, because I know that acne for teenagers is one of the hardest things that they go through when they're in school. And it's heartbreaking, just heartbreaking.
Oh, absolutely. Lived through it. And my daughter, like I said, the Accutane has worked to some extent, but man, I was really puzzled over, reading about it. And half the people get really good results, half don't, and they stop growing. I'm gonna stop talking because we'll get canceled. But all right, excellent.
But I will say this: what I really like about, let's say an Omnilux device. Let's say you did want to get a silicone mask that would be not only good for your daughter's acne, but maybe you could like put around your knee or your calf or, on your shoulder, then I would say get the red and the near infrared mask, because then you have one device that's multitasking, right? That's one thing I look for when I'm buying a device or when I recommend one for somebody.
I know you mentioned, and I wrote down the
Mm-hmm.
name, Michael Hamlin.
Mm-hmm.
You said, was he a medical doctor or is he
He's a scientist.
just a
Yeah.
scientist? Do you have anybody, other kind of go-to people that have written books or have done studies that you like to read or would suggest people look into?
Yes. So there's a doctor, his name is Dr. Roundtree, and I just love him. So I'm going to provide the link also for you for him. So Dr. Roundtree is a chiropractor. He owns a K laser. He does K laser in his clinic, but he also teaches other therapists who want to bring K laser into their business. So Dr. Roundtree has a podcast. He has a live Facebook presentation that he does with his assistant, and he is always referencing a study, and then he does a show based on that study. And so Dr. Roundtree is definitely one of my favorites. My favorite books are written by professional device companies. And that's really important to know. So for example, I have this book. It is very technical. I would never recommend this book just for the at-home user because they wouldn't really understand it. And this book is over $150. Okay. And, but like, for example, this book, this is my little red book. And I don't know for sure. My little red book, it's created by K Laser. Can the at-home user purchase this? I don't really know. But if anybody is going to invest in a book, this is where you're really going to get accurate information, not just about like how to do your treatment, because they give treatment examples in here, but it shows the placement. So there are books that you can buy that are written by people who've read studies. They have their opinions about red light therapy, and then they have a lot of recommendations for devices that they have an affiliate code for.
Yes.
I don't like books like that because people like that who've written it have no idea really how to use light therapy unless you're reading a book by a therapist who actually knows how to use light therapy, who actually has clinical experience. Like I've done over 15,000 treatments. I haven't just worked on my own body and my family, right? So
Right.
I've seen a pattern over 12 years. And that pattern is sometimes disruptive over what one paper would say. But people who've written books who've only read the papers, only have affiliate codes, their main goal is to sell you devices, you'll never get the accurate information that you could get.
Right. I always wonder about that. Now, I've read a book, I think I might have told you about it in an email. His name is Mark Sloan. It's called Red Light Therapy or Miracle Medicine.
Right. Okay.
And, I went away from that book thinking, like, this is it. Like, this is the cure to everything. So I always worry about that. Now you find out I think he does have a red light company that provides some light. So you're always like, oh, okay, But it was a really interesting read. Now, it didn't tell me to do red light on my feet like you did.
So I want to ask you, did he do light therapy in his clinic?
I can't remember. So that was the one thing. So I always want someone to be a clinician. Typically, when I found out I thought he was an MD as I was reading it. And then I went back and looked, and he's not. So he's more of I can't remember if he's a PhD or just a enthusiast researcher. So he seemed genuine in all of his things, but I don't think he was necessarily a practitioner. And then there's a guy by the name of Ari Whitten who's come on the scene the last couple of years, and he's got a podcast that is interesting. It's called the Energy Blueprint. And he talks a lot about mitochondrial health, and he's definitely a proponent of it. But I don't know that he is a practitioner either. I think I would call them just supporters and enthusiasts of red light.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I do appreciate enthusiasts of red light, and they definitely bring to the table interesting information from their take on studies, their perception of that study, because you can read a study and make it go many different ways. But there is no information or training that is better than somebody who actually uses it on real, live, living people, and who've actually seen 1 decade, 2 decades, 3 decades of results. And then you see the pattern, and then you build upon those patterns. The little red book written by Kay Laser, I mean, all of their information is clinically based. All of their treatment recommendations are clinically based. They've treated thousands and thousands of people over the years. And BioFlex, even though they are a professional company, clinically based, I do not believe they have a book that is available to the public.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, the show notes are going to be packed. I will tell you this because if nothing else, I want all this information when I'm looking for things. I'm going to start doing the bottoms of my feet, and I'm going to be bulletproof from now on.
Absolutely.
Have you ever worked on an Edmonton Oiler?
No, I haven't.
No?
I haven't.
But they're still there, right?
Yeah, so I haven't worked on an Edmonton Oiler, but I have worked on a ton of young kids who take their hockey very seriously. Yeah.
I bet.
A friend of mine, he has 2 boys, and when they injure themselves, I'm their number 1 call. And of course, they have their own home device because at 11 o'clock at night when they get home from playing a game, guess what? I'm not available. So they take their home light. They know exactly what to do, because that is another really important point for your listeners if they want to stay on the court, is when you have an injury, you absolutely must treat it as soon as possible. So get your light therapy device on it immediately. If you don't have a light therapy device, get ice on it immediately. You have to get the inflammation down from an injury as fast as you possibly can, if you want to recover as fast as you possibly can.
Oh, I've made the mistake. I have a ankle and foot doctor here in town who's seen me a couple times, and he's like, "Why did you wait a week to come in and see me? You need to come in and get this stuff taken care of."
Yeah.
Like, well, I just thought it would heal on its own.
Let me give you a tip with your device. Do you ever get bitten by a bee? A hornet, anything like that?
I did not, but we had an incident with my wife. Was that last summer?
Yeah.
I think it was the summer before. Mm-hmm. Full on, she uncovered a nest, and they were not happy about it. And she was running inside, and the bees were inside, and she took a couple of hits for sure.
Okay, so I've experienced this twice myself with a bee bite. And the minute that I got bit by the bee, I just stopped what I was doing, and I put my device directly on the bee bite, and it was like immediately I stopped what I was doing. In about 2 hours, there's 0 swelling, and it's like the bite never happened, and it's gone. And I've also done that with a burn. Immediately put my device on. I sit there for about an hour. Sometimes it takes 2 hours, but then it's like it never happened.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have come in handy. That was a messy summer evening, as I recall.
No.
The one thing I wanted to touch on. So I know you're in Canada, so maybe it's a little bit different in the United States and other parts of the world. But I know this is still kind of a niche therapy, although I think it's getting more popular and there's more people that are becoming proponents, and it's popping up in different, you can get cryotherapy in places, and then they're going to add a red light. But if someone wanted to get the training that you've had, and I know you've had to you've just done a lot of it yourself, are there specializations, or is all of the training go through the different red light therapy vendors, or is there certifications or things that you can get in red light if somebody was a massage therapist or did some sort of other therapy and wanted to add this to their practice?
That's a great question. So there's two different ways that you can get your certification in light therapy. So the one way is that you can purchase a $30,000, $40,000 K laser, and they offer a certification program, but it only teaches how to use their device, okay? Which is fine.
Right.
And then there is the BioFlex. You can invest $25,000 or more, buy their device. They give you a certification, and again, they only give you training with their device. And just a few months ago, I launched the Light Therapy Blueprint Academy, and I offer certification training for people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I offer certification for people who want to add light therapy into their business or who want to start a light therapy business. And what I do is I teach them the foundation of light therapy. It's really important to know what are the contraindications to light therapy, who can't get light therapy. I teach them my signature treatment protocol, and it is quite extensive, and it is from the top of the head to the bottom of the feet. And I also teach them how to use light therapy specifically on a targeted injury. And the reason that I opened up my academy is because there are so many therapists who want to add light therapy into their business, but they actually don't have the $30,000, the $40,000, the $50,000 to spend on one piece of equipment, right? And because I know for a fact that you can use home devices and you can get therapeutic results if you're doing the proper protocols, I can offer the certification training program with a very high level of confidence. And it's been going really well. And so, and as far as like getting training from the average at-home light therapy device company, I've never seen it offered. And honestly, I would never recommend it, even if it was, because when I look at all of the information that most of the companies put out that is incorrect, I would never want them training, a group of potential red light therapists and training them incorrectly. Because I've said this once and I'll say it again. I'm very passionate about light therapy. I know what it can do for a person, but it must be used properly. And when there's information guiding people in the wrong direction, it just shines a bad light on light therapy, and it leaves people feeling like it doesn't really work. But it does. You just have to use it properly.
Right. Yeah. And my experience has been, I've just read enough things that led me down this path, and I just know anecdotally, even though I've not had necessarily a really bad acute issue since I've been having the red light device, I just know anecdotally I feel better. If I do have something that's achy and painful, I can use it, and it does seem to help. Now, I've been much better at your other point of doing a lot more stretching than I used to. So hopefully I'm not, and I'm doing the knees over toes guy workouts. And so lots of things to prevent injury. But yeah, like I said, I'm doing this 3-month experiment with, going in at least 5 days a week to get the full body, especially during the winter months. At least again, anecdotally, but I feel like it improves mood. a little bit, enough that I'm willing to pay. I think I pay $65 a month for unlimited usage at this place, about 5 minutes away. So, I am a fan. What I want to know, or let the listeners know, is, because Wendy obviously is a proponent and practices this, and I am a believer in it as well. It doesn't mean you should, take it lock, stock, and barrel and not do your own research and go and search things out. But I tell you what, this has been what I would call almost a masterclass. And I'm going to go check out more of your information for sure. And I know that we could talk for another 3 hours because I'm already thinking of other questions that I may ask you once we turn off the recording device. But I know I've had you for almost 2 hours. So tell us all the touch points. We'll put everything that you've talked about in the show notes. And it'll be a full write-up of everything we've done. And Wendy's going to set us up with a couple of handouts that I'm excited to get, especially for knee injuries and ankle injuries and all those types of things. But let the listeners know where they can get a hold of you, the Facebook group. And again, we'll put links in the show notes. But where are the 3 or 4 places that they can locate you on the internet?
Probably the easiest place is they can either find the link in the show notes, or if you're listening to this and you aren't looking at the show notes, inflammationcoach.com/stay on the court. And that is a page that is going to have the PDF download for the exact treatment I was talking about today. And it's going to have Simon's testimonial of what he was able to do with light therapy. There'll be a link to the free Facebook group, and going to inflammationcoach.com/stay on the court. And then that's where they'll be able to get access to the link for the Facebook group and everything. But my business name is Inflammation Coach, personal name, Wendy Zelmer. I have a YouTube channel. I'm still trying to decide, do I want to call it Wendy Zelmer or change it to Inflammation Coach? I'm not sure.
I've got a sickness, and I think of everything in business terms.
Okay.
Right? Just like Pat Flynn would tell us, I may do Inflammation Coach just because if you ever wanted to take yourself out of the business a little bit, and I just like it as a brand too. I think it kind of rolls off the tongue and is a nice brand.
I absolutely love what I do, and I plan on doing this as long as I live. I plan on helping people, whether it's online. I don't do as many in-clinic treatments anymore just because everything online is just blowing up, right? It's just getting busier and busier.
Right.
But I still haven't named my podcast, and I was going to name it Light Therapy Blueprint, but truly what the foundation of what I like to talk about is inflammation. And I just use light therapy.
I like both of those.
Yeah, I know, like they're both good, but I think I think across the board, just being consistent. Inflammation Coach.
Well, here's what we'll do.
Domain.
If I would go to Twitter, and whichever one of those handles you can actually get.
Oh, right.
That'll be your decision maker. Otherwise, we'll come back and we'll do rock, paper, scissors to figure out which one it should be.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Yeah, no kidding. And well, before we close it though, Troy, is there any other questions that you have for me, whether it's for your listeners or for yourself? I want to make sure that I've answered your...
I'm going through my cavalcade of questions that I've had here, and I feel like we have covered most of the items. Now, this will take us down a whole nother rabbit hole. But so my wife has I think it's an ultraviolet light, and it's a big, big panel. And we had to get a prescription for it for psoriasis.
Yes, UVA, UVB.
And now you can get prescribed some things that will work that dramatically diminish your immune system, which is not a great situation. But she was flabbergasted that. So we have this big thing in our basement, and she mostly only has to use it in the winter, and it's unbelievable how she doesn't have to do it very often. I can't remember if it's once a week or twice a week for 90 seconds or it's not a very long time period, and it worked.
Yeah.
It's just another one of those things of what else is out there that we're not thinking of, somebody didn't even know existed. And it's something that she had battled with for years. We lived in Phoenix, Arizona, and there was more sunlight, obviously, and we moved up to Nebraska. It was becoming more and more debilitating. Anyways. So we can talk about that another podcast down the road, or once we get off. But that's just another one of those examples of just light therapy and different alternative therapies that are out there.
Absolutely. We will. We can talk about that in another podcast, because this is something that I didn't mention in my bio. From the early 90s to 2007, I owned a wellness center, and I had 10 tanning beds in the wellness center, and we taught people how to tan for healthy levels of vitamin D and also for reducing risk when they burn on a holiday. And there's a doctor, his name is Dr. Hollick, and you'll be interested to look him up. He's fascinating. He's written books about vitamin D, and he is a big advocate of tanning and of moderate tanning. And so I met him at a convention that I went to, and I said to Dr. Hollick, I said, if I want to tan only for healthy levels of vitamin D, what do I need to do? And he said, your body only stores the vitamin D that is naturally stimulated from a full tan for 7 days. So you would need to tan once every 7 days, and your body will have its full amount of vitamin D. I live in a winter province, and I tan once or twice a week in the wintertime to keep my body sustained of healthy levels of vitamin D, because I really believe that there's nothing better than the vitamin D that your body naturally produces. And 100%, I had so many clients who came to me who had psoriasis, and it went away with the tanning. And so you and your wife, like, number one, you guys are amazing. You are so on top of your own health and wellness, and so is she. I love that you have that panel downstairs, and you're on the right track, like 100% on the right track. And I always like to say, when I'm talking to people in closing, if you're going to do anything, please invest in your health and please invest in your wellness, whether it's your time or your money, because parents always say, I'd do anything for their kids. One of the greatest things you can do is invest in your health and wellness so that you can age in a healthy way and you can enjoy your time with your family and they enjoy their time with you. My mom is 84 years old. She has invested in her health and wellness her entire life. She still lives in her own home and she's completely independent on no medication because she has done all the different layers of health and wellness. So congratulations to you and your wife.
I need to get your mom to talk to my mom because she does pretty good, but she could do some things a little bit better. But she's living in the sun in Las Vegas, so she gets lots of sunshine.
Nice. Mm-hmm.
All right, Wendy. Hey, this was fantastic. This was great. I learned a lot of things that I didn't know that I was going to learn. So I was definitely surprised by a couple of things and just a wealth of information. And I really appreciate you coming on. And you may actually be the first live interview on stayinthecourt.com. So again, I really appreciate it.
Troy, it was my pleasure. I love just helping anybody who wants to get these messages out to people because it is so important. And it was just a pleasure being here with you today.
Until next time.
Here we go.